Hello, welcome back to another episode of Jen's Den. I am Jennifer Blankel, your certified relationship and marriage coach. So, today we are talking about conflict. I'll start with the fact that so many people that come to me, whether they're individuals coming to me for relationship coaching or they're couples, so many people come to me and they're distraught over the amount of conflict that they're experiencing in their relationship, and they a lot of times explain to me the nature of the conflict that's happening, and they're oftentimes saying it and explaining it in a way that means there's something so wrong with their relationship. We've been fighting for a decade over this and that. We're never going to get along over this. We're never going to be able to resolve this stuff. And, so humanly so, I on a regular basis hear from wonderful people who feel so down and even feel hopeless around the fact that there is so much conflict being had in their relationship or their marriage. So what I want to talk about today is the goodness of conflict. I want to talk about the awesomeness of conflict. And I want to give you, hopefully it's my intention, I want to give you some peace. I want to give you some relief today by talking about this. I'm going to start with a piece of data that I am obsessed with, which is 69% of our conflict is not resolvable. This data does relate to long-term relationships and marriages. So your love partner, 69% of your conflict isn't resolvable. It's not resolvable material. It's just stuff that you're going to not agree on, you're not going to align on, and you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to in the future. You were never supposed to in the past. You can completely let yourself off the hook. So, and there's a lot of data on this. You can find so much data around the high amount of conflict that is just deemed normal and human. And at the same time, we tend to define conflict as proof that there's something wrong, with our relationship. Sometimes people even think I've picked the wrong person. I've chosen the wrong mate. We fight all the time. So taking the raw data, 69% of conflict is just unresolvable material. Like, give it up. Stop trying. It's not resolvable. So starting there, and then also touching on all of the research and data around the fact that the most happy of couples are not the ones that don't fight. I will tell you, one of my pet peeves is when people say, "Oh, you know what? We're good. We are so great as a couple. We don't fight. We never fight." That really annoys me because that is not a reflective piece of proof that identifies the quality of your relationship or the health status of your relationship. Has nothing to do with it. The people that don't fight a lot of times are the same people that they're barely scratching the surface. They're not pulling back the deeper layers of understanding that lead to intimacy and a closer, deeper connection. The people that are the happiest are absolutely fighting. However, they're navigating their arguments and their fights with health and with love and respect. And they're not doing it perfectly, and they might fall off the wagon here and there, but they come back and repair. They repair, and that's the difference. And so, anybody out there that thinks that their neighbors are doing great because they never fight, it could be that they are keeping the peace and the water's calm, but they're not actually accessing the deeper layers of intimacy and insight and knowledge that actually come from conflict. So let's normalize conflict today. Let's celebrate it for what it gives us. If you think about it from this angle, conflict is really one of the only ways in a committed relationship where we find out things. If you think about it, if you think about the last conflict that you got in with, whether it went, whether you managed yourselves well and maintained your love and respect, or whether you, drag out, fight, completely fell off your horse argument, what did you learn? Regardless of how the argument, or I like to say kerfuffle, because I think the word kerfuffle adds cuteness and light to the word fight. So I like to use the word kerfuffle in my sessions when I talk about arguments or conflict. So what did you learn from that last kerfuffle? What was gained? And if you dig deep, you can probably get to at least one piece of raw data or insight that you didn't have before that kerfuffle. And that's what we easily forget. We can easily humanly focus in on the negative emotions, the negative emotional triggers that occur when we get into a kerfuffle with someone that we really care about. And we forget the positive gain that we are indeed truly getting from working through a kerfuffle, from letting it happen. I do know that we fare the best in love relationships. If I'm talking about love relationships specifically, we do fare best when we can get comfortable having kerfuffles, when we cannot shy away from, when we're not just apt to shy away from conflict or, stuff things under the rug. We fare so much better when you and me get more comfortable having conflict, being imperfect about it, even being a little bit messy about it. But over time, one kerfuffle at a time, developing the skill of being able to navigate through it with love and respect. So, we could talk about this through a lot of segments, and I'm sure we will. On, okay, Coach Jen, great that conflict is good, but how do we have good conflict? So I'm going to give you some concrete things today. Don't you worry. Let's take a break real quick. Welcome back from the break. I am Coach Jennifer Blankel, your certified relationship and marriage coach, and we are here on another episode of Jen's Den. And today we're talking about the awesomeness of conflict. Or, as I was mentioning before, I like to use the word kerfuffle. I like to use the word kerfuffle in place of conflict or fight or argument, because I think it, especially in my sessions with my coaching clients, it adds lightness and, in my opinion, humor and cuteness to the concept of conflict. So we're talking about the importance of conflict in getting to the deeper layers of connection and intimacy in our relationships. We can't get there without kerfuffling. We can't. We can certainly have a nice, calm, peaceful relationship, but conflict is usually the vehicle that we learn the most about what we do want. We learn the most about what we don't want. We learn the most about what we want to have and experience. We learn the most about what we want to create together when we can kerfuffle without fully annihilating ourselves and the other person, of course. And, we're going to talk more about that. Like, okay, kerfuffling is great. Conflict is good. We talked about, 69% of our kerfuffles, of our conflicts, of our arguments are not resolvable. That's by research. I didn't just make that up. The far majority of our conflicts aren't even resolvable. And yet we spend so much time, struggling and clamoring and working so hard to convince our partners of our perspective or, have somebody understand our feelings and our opinions on something. Anyway, conflict is good. Let's not be afraid of conflict. People that say, oh, me and my wife, we're golden. We never fight. Well, that's nice and, lovely. And at the same time, my mind and heart want to ask the question, okay, how close, how truly intimate is that couple's relationship? What depth of knowledge do they have on each other? What level of understanding do they really have about their relationship? So conflict is good. Conflict is the vehicle that we learn so much about our partner. Okay, so one thing I want to get through today before the end of this segment, which is such an important strategy, is taking a break. When, if you are facing kerfuffle, you're facing a kerfuffle with someone that you love and care about, you're getting triggered, your emotional state thermometer is rising, you're needing time and space to regroup yourself, to regain your composure. Leaving the scene is such a great strategy. And at the same time, it's fascinating how much of us forget to the most important piece, which is if you're going to take a break and you're going to leave temporarily, is to say precisely when you're going to be back. Honey, my head's about to explode. I don't want to say anything that I regret. I'm going to leave and go on a walk for 15 minutes. I will be back here in 20. Hey son, I know this conversation is getting heated between you and me. Let's have dinner. You work on your homework. At 9:00 tonight, we'll talk about this. It's so key to say when you're going to be back. We just humanly forget that piece, which is the most important. People flee the scene all the time with good intent. And I hear about this a lot in my work. I hear about this a lot with my couples saying, not understanding the reaction that they get from leaving the scene, or, really feeling the pain from the uncertainty of their partner leaving the scene and not saying when they're going to be back. So my concrete strategy to you today is, mind your emotional state when you are in a more heated or difficult or triggering conversation. Tabling a conversation is a great strategy for so many reasons. Again, we can better manage our emotional state a lot of times by taking a break. We can clarify our thoughts and what we can express better coming back to the table. Excuse me. Excuse me. And at the same time, saying precisely when you're going to be back can really greatly soothe the person that you're breaking from by giving them a sense of certainty and security that they might not even be conscious they are loving that they're receiving by you saying precisely when you're going to be back. So, hey, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. I don't want to blow my head. And you know what? You can totally count on me to be back in 1 hour after I cool off. It makes a world of difference. So that's what I've got for you today. Conflict is good. Conflict is beneficial. That's where we learn what we want, what we don't want, what we want to have, what we want to experience. So don't be afraid to have it. And being able to pick your battles, as my mom, she still says that. That's one of her favorite sayings. Pick your battles, Jen. It's true. And knowing the facts around 69%, the far majority of our conflicts are not even resolvable. Not even. Pick your battles holds a lot more power and weight as a piece of advice to live by. So don't be afraid to kerfuffle. Just make sure you're navigating yourself with love and respect, because you deserve that. And so do the people that you love. So thank you for being here for another episode of Jen's Den, where we have honest conversations. We get to real answers and relationship insights that you wish you had so long ago. Tune in next time. Thank you.